If you fear surrender, you fear letting go of the control over yourself and of the things happening in your life. You fear becoming a victim of circumstance and having life happen to you with no ability to control the outcome, because you think that if you surrender, you let go of your willpower and your ability to create reality based on your own choosing. However, this definition of surrender couldn't be farther from the truth. What it means to truly surrender is to regain control over the things that you do indeed have control over, which is predominantly your own consciousness and your ability to ride with the flow of life rather than to oppose it, to choose alignment rather than to choose misalignment, because you believe that surrendering entails not having a say over what happens to you. The truth is, when you surrender, you gain control over what matters most, which is your ability to be free and to be liberated by connecting to your soul, which only acts in a state of surrender. To surrender is to open up the voice of truth within you and to follow it. Because if you surrender, you make a commitment to yourself to live in the name of truth, authenticity, your personal willpower, and the drive of your consciousness, which is always aiming to do the best for you. So why then is it so difficult to surrender? Well, we believe that if we surrender, we just start allowing things to happen to us without allowing ourselves to have an effect on the outcome. What if I told you that there's always a flow in your life? There's always a way that things are going to be happening, and this is all orchestrated by the universe and by your higher self. Let's say that everything that happens to you is purposeful, is willful from a higher dimensional standpoint. Then you just have to accept the fact that everything happening has a reason to be. And there's a purpose for the unfolding of life's events and the synchronicities and the patterns and everything that happens to enter your life that you need to somehow accept or respond to in one or another way. When you have a hard time surrendering, what you're doing is you're responding to things that you believe happen independently of you. You believe that you can't surrender because you need to fight against the flow of life. You need to intervene with the divine orchestration of events and somehow change the outcome by choosing to maintain opposition within yourself. Think about the paradox here. How is it that you're going to be improving the outcomes in your life if you're just clashing against the inevitable unfolding of life's circumstances, which are meant to help you maintain alignment? Everything that is happening to you is allowing you to learn what it means to flow with the flow. It's helping you learn how to respond in a way that is emotionally neutral and is more understanding of the reason why things are happening to you and for you, in order for you to gain an upper hand over your own consciousness, to learn alignment, to learn trust, to learn how to navigate life through your own navigation of yourself. And it's through the recalibration of your inner world that you actually learn the power of surrender. Ultimately, surrender is the art of letting go. It is learning how to hold the space of alignment within you so that what happens outside of you has no actual impact on how you feel about yourself and life at large. It doesn't matter what people tell you about you, what things are happening outside of you, what happens that you believe isn't going your way. When mistakes happen or failures or difficulties that are outside of your control, you can still learn to surrender by learning to accept the inevitability of things and to understand what you can do about it in order to increase the outcome of things ultimately happening in the name of your highest good. In order to surrender, you ultimately have to make a choice. Are you going to be free, or are you going to remain a hostage of everything that you believe exists outside of your control? Typically, when people have an issue with letting go and with surrender, they want to maintain control because their ego fears what will happen if it dissolves into that state of love and acceptance. When the ego feels threatened by the thought of letting go, it is desperately gripping onto everything that defines it, that allows it to maintain a presence by connecting to the past, things that have happened that allow it to predict possible scenarios in the future. When you have a hard time letting go, you are thinking in your mind about what might happen if you let go. If you choose to just surrender, to trust, to make decisions based on your inner knowing, rather than your mind's constant grasp for possibilities based on past events. To surrender is to quite literally let go of this dominance of your ego in your life. This means that you choose to be as one with the universal flow, which is always bringing you towards greater meaning and allowing you to see the reason why everything is happening the way that it is. If you choose not to go with the flow, if you choose to battle with your own ego and to not surrender, what you're going to be facing is the dichotomy between your ego and your soul. What you're going to be feeling is a clashing against this intuition which you're constantly feeling deep down through subtle desires, through cues of your heart, through different desires, needs, and inclinations which deep down feel true and right, but your ego is going to be telling you not to listen, to go with the flow that it is dictating in your life rather than this flow that is naturally streaming from your heart's consciousness. If you choose to let go of what your mind is constantly telling you to engage in this inner battle, you just start to trust this inner voice. You start to listen to a faculty that is beyond your mind's comprehension, and you start to let go of the need to constantly be in control from a mental state. For men in particular, this can be a difficult thing to do because men are such logical creatures. Many men are constantly trying to create reality based on what their head is telling them is right, based on a cognitive process of strategy, deliberate thinking, and rationalization of everything that could go right or wrong in any particular scenario. To let go means to step into the more feminine state of being, the world of feeling, the realm of imagination, and thinking about what the unknown might hold, which it's really pulling you into when you start listening to your heart. As soon as you start to let go, new possibilities begin unfolding. You start to imagine a whole new world that might be unveiled to you when you actually start to trust what your heart wants, what your intuition is begging you to attempt to do, except you're never going to allow yourself to even get there when you're sabotaging on your intuitive pulse, when you're not allowing yourself to listen to your heart and instead you're constantly living in this prison of your mind. To step into the state of surrender could feel like a complete shift of yourself, a personal catalysis that forces you to step outside of the box and to break out of your own shell. Because usually surrender entails stepping out of your comfort zone. When you're not surrendering, you're staying in a still state of you not taking any action, not deciding to change anything that needs to be changed in order for you to truly experience your liberated, authentic self. Sometimes you may desire to surrender, but you don't know what that's going to entail. You might feel a great deal of fear relating to this need to let go. You might feel like things aren't actually going to click into place if you make this massive shift in your life, if you change your location, your connections, your work, different things that you're doing, your daily routine, all kinds of things that appear to be a stuck part of your reality, and yet you feel like you want that change. So this is where surrender kicks in. To surrender is to quite literally lean back into your still point and to think about how you're going to feel when you actually surrender. How is it going to feel when you let go of this oppression that you're waging in your day-to-day life and you stop trying to force things from happening and you start actually choosing you? To surrender ultimately is to choose to align with self-love. It's to choose to end this inner revolution and to decide that what you're feeling is what you should be prioritizing. What you know to be true is what should be guiding your life, not what your head is constantly doing to create arguments against what your heart is informing you. Many people struggle with letting go because they think about what other people are going to do in response to their act of surrender, how other people are going to judge them for choosing to let go of their mind and all the societal expectations, conditioning, biases, social norms that come along with that, and instead they choose themselves. It's easy to judge someone who chooses to surrender because what they seem to be doing is living selfishly. Sometimes when someone chooses to surrender, it looks like they're doing something that is inconceivable. They're choosing themselves and they're choosing to do something that is so different that they are quite literally disrupting the status quo. Someone who chooses to surrender is ultimately more courageous than someone who chooses to just live within the societal box, someone who chooses conformity and to follow the masses. Because to surrender is to do something that is not usually acceptable. It's to break out of the need to find acceptance in the world, and it's really emerging the power of the true self by coming into alignment with what yourself is saying. So to surrender, you need to start really thinking about who is dictating your life. Is it your higher self or is it your lower self? And the way that you can tell the difference between the two is your higher self is independent of the masses, of your past, your programming, your thinking, your trauma, what other people have taught you to think about yourself and reality at large. It is completely independent of all programs, and it is pure alignment with universal truth. When you surrender, you can feel this loving state envelop you. It's a feeling like you have found wholeness because you have found the deep connection with Source and with truth. When you surrender, you feel free Because when you surrender, you know you've made the right choice in spite of all of the fear, the struggle, the difficulties, and everything you've been made to believe to keep you stuck in this box. In essence, surrendering is really breaking out of the matrix. Because when you choose to take the red pill for yourself, you choose to surrender in spite of everything that is forcing you to look in the other direction. You choose to allow yourself to lean back into inner acceptance despite all of the opposition that you might be experiencing to making that choice. If there's any struggle in your life, any problem, any challenge, any difficulty at all that makes you feel like you're sitting on one of two chairs, as in you could be one person if you make one decision, and you can be another version of yourself if you make the other. Think about what chair you would choose to sit on if you choose to surrender. Where is it easier to feel like yourself when you're making that decision? Where do you feel more fully embodied in your own truth and in coherence with your inner feelings when you make that decision? If you're having to fake your identity to sit on one of the two chairs, you're choosing not to surrender to truth, and you're choosing to surrender to this mundane way of life. You're choosing to stay complacent and to live in a stuck version of yourself because you're just afraid of what it's going to take to live in alignment with truth. Ultimately, sometimes we need to take a step back to really evaluate the situation for what it is. Because when you're going about life and having to make decisions and choices that are either in alignment with yourself or not, you might forget that this actually is a choice. You might not realize that you have the ability to surrender, to trust your intuition, to make the choice based on love and not self-hatred or feeling of obligation to do something for someone else, because you really do have the ability to tune into another consciousness, another awareness, and that is ultimately what the universe is guiding you toward. Everything that happens in your life is happening in alignment with you. Everything in your life is a manifestation of your subconscious mind. Everything is part of an unfolding lesson to bring you closer to yourself. So you may find that if you do not surrender and you don't listen to your true self, you're going to encounter more hardships, more challenges, more karmic lessons that are going to make you feel like life is happening against you simply because you're not choosing you. If you're not choosing this truth, you're going to have to confront your demons through the projection of those demons in the world. You're going to have to feel like the universe is against you, even though it really isn't. Because the universe is simply a mirror of consciousness. It's helping you realize that whatever you're embodying is what's going to be shown to you. So if you choose to hold this inner struggle, struggle is going to be perpetuated in your life. If you choose to not find alignment in yourself, your partners, your family members, and society at large is going to seem to push away from you. And you're not going to find that peace that you desire because you're not even attempting to find the peace within. One of the biggest quantum jumps that you can gift yourself is the realization that nothing is ever happening against you but you. You are the creator of this prison in your mind, and you are the person who is able to bust out of it when you realize that nothing is actually keeping you stuck but you. When you choose to surrender, you can open that door and walk out of it. You can choose to see limitless possibilities that you've been too stubborn to not see because you're not choosing to surrender to them. Typically, the answers are right in front of us. You already house the feelings that are going to lead you towards the best life that you want to be living. You already know what it's going to take to be happier, healthier, feel more love, and actually experience alignment with the universe at large. And everything is happening to just bring you closer to that state. So think about, if there are hardships in your lives, how you can surrender to figure out the why behind their manifestation. How can you come into a state of so much love within you that you start to love and accept the integrated version of your reality within you by seeing that you are the creator of it? This is ultimately the most important point of all. Even if you feel like you can't surrender to the life that is occurring to you, you can surrender knowing that you have created it. So if you don't like what you're seeing, surrender to the knowing that you can do something about it. You can change the way that you perceive things, and immediately the life seems to change in front of you. As you think differently, as you refine your sense of self and realize that everything is happening as part of a changing, evolving cycle in life, you realize that nothing is keeping you to this stagnant state. You are always open to surrender to a new possibility and a new version of you when you actually choose to let in that new outcome. Surrender to the knowing that you are change and you are capable of anything when you decide that you're ready to do so.